Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Ground and Pound Podcast quick picks video for UFC Fight Night Abu Dhabi. Whittaker taking on Renia Dorita in the main event. And if you're in a rush this week, if you have been very busy this week, this video is for you. Rapid fire style, full card breakdown, 15 minutes or less with a confident level traffic light system at the bottom. And as always, if you're enjoying the content, hit that like and subscribe button as we kick things off in the early prelim opener of Martin Buday taking on the UFC debutant Marcus Buchecha. Give me Buchecha here. I think that this 17-time world Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu champion is going to get it done here on the ground. Has fantastic blast doubles. Martin Buday is a very big heavyweight, but he's also sloppy and slows down as fights go on. Martin Buday looks to get into the clinch and hold you against the fence. I think that's going to only open up takedown opportunities for Buchecha. Buchecha's trained over at American Top Team. Obviously, he is only 5-1 in his professional MMA career, but I do think that he looks competent on the feet. He's the better athlete, the faster athlete, and once this fight hits the ground, he's going to be absolutely levels apart with Buday. I think BJJ is going to be the path to victory here. He's going to find the submission early in round one, soften him up with ground and pound, and ultimately get the finish here. Give me Buchecha. Not necessarily super confident, obviously, because he is new to the UFC. The debuts can be a little bit tricky, but I do think Buchecha gets it done here. Red level confidence pick. And next up, we have Muhammad Yahya taking on Steve Wynn. And I'm going with Steve Wynn here to win. Obviously, both guys not UFC level. I've not been impressed with Muhammad Yahya. He's really just the poster boy for UAE. Very low volume. Likes to mix in the front chokes if people try to take him down. We saw that in the Trevor Peek fight. Stephen Wynn, nice counter striker, can put up volume. Had kind of a little bit of a lackluster performance in his UFC debut. I think he's the better striker here. I think he's got the faster hands. 2-1 in the Contender Series. Don't like to see that. Obviously, multiple times over in the Contender Series means that you might not necessarily be UFC level. Horse shit versus dog shit. Give me dog shit here and Stephen Wynn to get it done. Not very confident in either of these fighters. Wouldn't be surprised if Wynn gets screwed on the judges' scorecards by Yahya being the hometown guy. And next up, we have Damon Blackshear taking on Davey Grant. I'm going to lean to Blackshear here. I think that this fight really just comes down to both guys having good striking. We know that Davey Grant likes to blast kicks on the outside, 39 years old, but still very competent in the cage. But I think this fight here that Damon Blackshear mixes in the grappling. He uses the more different varieties of skill sets here in MMA. Mixes in the martial arts, as they say. I think that the takedowns come early and often here for Blackshear. We know that Davey Grant's 4 of his 7 losses have come via submission. We know that Blackshear is one of the only few fighters inside the UFC to have a twister finish. I think that Damon Blackshear comes in here and mixes in the grappling here. Medium level confidence, of course. If this fight ends up being a back and forth striking affair, I do think that Davey Grant is very live, but I trust Blackshear here to do the smart thing and mix in the grappling. Give me Blackshear to use the different martial arts here and ultimately find the takedowns, maybe even find the submission late in round 2 or 3. And next up, we have Ibo Aslan taking on Billy Elkanan, and I'm going with Abu Aslan here. I think the power is going to be too much for Billy. We saw in Billy's UFC debut, he pretty much fights at middleweight, fighting up at 205 again. He's going to be undersized here against Abu Aslan. The power is going to be too much for him. Aslan has been taken down in his 2 losses and submitted by Kutalaba and by the Pleasure Man, but I do think that Elkanan, I do think that he could come out here and pretty much find the submission. He did find the back of Gusko in his UFC debut, was able to swarm him early and take the back, ultimately look for the rear naked choke. That was on short notice. This one here, obviously a full camp. I do think that Abu Aslan, though, is going to have to really mind his P's and Q's and not overextend and get taken down. But I do think ultimately he finds the chin, uses the power here, and ultimately gets the victory using his power and his striking. Give me Abu Aslan medium level confidence to get it done against the undersized Billy Elkanan. And next up, we have Muslim Sadikov taking on Carlos Leal. Give me Carlos Leal, man. This guy is sourced. This guy is jacked. This guy has power. He walks you down with disdain. He doesn't care what's coming back. He literally throws full leather. Very technical striker, though. Lights up the calf. Has good boxing. He can also mix in the takedowns like we saw in previous fights over in the PFL. And to me, this fight just really comes down to corralling the kicker. Muslim Sadikov, the king of Kung Fu, loves his spinning kicks. 4 or 5 in his career, spinning wheel kicks to the head, knock knockouts. And I think here that Carlos Leal knows that he needs to crash into the pocket, take away those kicks, and get this one really in boxing range or in the clinch. That's where Leal likes to do most of his work. That's where Muslim Salikhov will struggle in fights. Obviously, he wants that range to be able to get his kicks going. I think that Leal smothers him here, maybe finds a late knockout or rides out some top control here with some takedowns. Give me Carlos Leal, confidence pick here to get it done against Muslim Salikhov. And next up, we have Tabitha Baby Shark Arichi taking on Amanda Ribas. Amanda Ribas has been struggling recently in her career. Her two previous wins have come against Viviane Araújo, the 38-year-old kind of struggling fighter, along with Luana Pinheiro, who's on a 4-fight losing streak and who's 1-5 inside the UFC. And what was that last performance against Mackenzie Dern? In that previous fight against Mackenzie Dern, she was, pretty much initiating the grappling against a woman that's known for her BJJ. She should have kept that one on the feet. I don't trust her fight IQ at this point in her career. She is the more technical striker in this matchup. I do think that Tabitha Ricci here is going to mix in takedowns. Tabitha Ricci is very, very good in the clinch. She's good at, being persistent in the wrestling. I do think that Amanda Ribas is the more complete striker. However, I know that Ricci is going to come forward. She's going to be a dog. She's going to put up volume. And I think that the takedowns are going to be what's going to be on the table for her to win this fight. I think Ricci's going to get these takedowns. Amanda Ribas is going to oblige in the grappling. And ultimately, Amanda Ribas is going to play jiu-jitsu off of her back. Ricci's going to pick up top control here, pick up a lot of time spent in dominant positions, and ultimately win a decision here. So give me Tabitha Ricci, medium level confidence to get it done with the grappling. Next up, we have Nikita Krylov taking on Bogdan Guskov, and I think this fight really just comes down to whoever lands first. Bogdan Guskov has a nice right hand, nice counter-striking, powerful right hand. He can mix in takedowns, but all 17 of his wins coming via finish. Nikita Krylov can pretty much finish fights wherever it goes. I just didn't like his last performance. He came in after a 2-year layoff and was chinned by Dominic Reyes because he was completely overzealous, shot a takedown from miles away, and ultimately got his chin checked. And I do think that Guskov here has the power to be able to chin a guy like Nikita Krylov. Krylov as well is also a guy that can, finish fights on the feet or on the ground. So it just depends however either one of these guys comes in. Both guys very aggressive. I just trust Bogdan Guskov to be a little bit more measured at this point in his career than Nikita Krylov. So give me Bogdan Guskov. Not confident, as I do think that this is a coin flip fight. So give me the underdog here in a slight lean. And next up, we have Bryce Mitchell taking on Said Nurmagomedov. And I'm going with Bryce Mitchell here, coming down from 145 to 135. I think that size, the thickness here throughout his back and shoulders is going to be great for him to be able to mix in the wrestling here. Nurmagomedov likes to fight on the outside, very much a bouncing sort of kickboxing style. He will throw a ton of spinning kicks. And I do think that those spinning attacks are going to cause him to be able to get taken down here. We saw in many fights, for example, the Valentina Shevchenko fight against Alexa Grasso, when people spin and people duck underneath those attacks, it opens up the takedowns. I think that's exactly what's going to happen here with Bryce Mitchell. I think he's going to be able to get the takedowns, get good top control, being the bigger, stronger fighter here. And I do think that Nurmagomedov is talented, but not necessarily what his last name would suggest. He's not necessarily a heavy wrestler. He likes to get it done with the striking. He does slow down in fights because of those big spinning kicks. And I think that Mitchell comes in here and gets the takedowns. It's hard to be confident in Bryce Mitchell, but he is talented. That's why he's only going to be a lean here, but I do think he mixes in the wrestling. I like the move down here to 135. I think he gets it done with the grappling. And next up, we have Asu Omabayev taking on Jose Ochoa. Ochoa taking this fight on about a week's notice. Give me Omabayev here. I think the full camp and the wrestling heavy style here is going to be all she wrote here for Ochoa. I think he gets the takedowns here whenever he wants. I do think Ochoa is very talented, still in 24 years old. He has great striking, obviously putting out Cody Durden in his previous fight. I think the fact that this is short notice is going to be a problem for him here. All 8 of his wins do come via finish. I think Asu Omabayev is very tough. I think that the heavy wrestling is going to be what it takes to get it done. He's going to get takedowns early and often here, wear on the gas tank of Ochoa, and ultimately win a decision here with the top control in the wrestling. And next up, we have Shara Nurmagomedov taking on Marc-Andre Barriault. And I feel confident in Nurmagomedov. This feels like a fight that's a showcase bout here in front of the UAE faithful. Obviously, Nurmagomedov is well known over there for his partaking in movies and being a film star. His fantastic striking style, highlight reel double spinning back fist knockout that he got in one of his previous fights. And I think that Marc-Andre Barriault's chin can't be trusted at this point in his career. I think that Barriault needs to come in here and mix in takedowns. I don't think he's going to be able to do that against Nurmagomedov. I think Nurmagomedov's striking is completely elite in comparison to the powerbomb Andre Barrio here. I think he finds the chin and ultimately gets the knockout. Very confident in Shara Bullet to get the knockout here and get the victory. And next up in the co-main event, we have Petr Yan taking on Marcus McGee. Marcus McGee, an explosive striker, very, very good takedowns. And he's a pretty damn good athlete, built like a brick shithouse. And Petr Yan is a very, very skilled technical fighter. He's fought the who's who of the division. He does tend to take the first round off to get his reads. He is a slow starter. I wouldn't be surprised if this ended up being 29-28 Petr Yan. Marcus McGee winning the first round, fighting on the outside, slamming the leg kicks. The boxing heavy style of Petr Yan is going to give McGee those leg kicks, but ultimately I do think that Yan will be able to push a pace in the second and third round, as he does have a lot of 5-round experience here, and I do think that he is the more technical striker. I think he gets reads early. I think McGee's dangerous early because of his explosivity and his ability to really find the chin of his opponents, and like I said, he is a very sort of big, dense guy, but I think ultimately here Petr Yan's experience, his ability to take over in rounds 2 and 3 is going to be what's going to be needed in order for him to get it done. And that brings us to the main event. We have Robert the Reaper Whittaker taking on Reinier de Ridder. Give me de Ridder, man, here. Dog of the week. I think that he's going to get it done. He's the bigger guy in this matchup. 6'4". He's very physically present in fights. He walks his opponents down and really just backs them up, gets into the clinch. He likes to throw knees to the body, as you can see in most of his fights. Robert the Reaper Whittaker is definitely not the Robert Whittaker that we know from previous years, fighting against guys like Yoel Romero, that back and forth war, fighting against Israel Adesanya. It's not that Robert Whittaker anymore. He's still very talented, has a nice jab, steps into the pocket with the nice 1-2. He can mix in wrestling, but ultimately I think that the size here, the length, the reach of de Ridder is going to give Whittaker problems. I think he smothers him. I think he beats him up to the body, ultimately finds a takedown late in round 2 or 3, and maybe even gets a submission or ground and pound victory. He might ride at top control for a decision, but I think ultimately here, after Whittaker coming off of that teeth snapping injury, or that teeth, the Hamzat Chimaev choke that, broke his mouth and broke his jaw, I think that's going to be enough to make him tap here for one of Reinier Ridder's rear naked chokes. So give me de Ridder here, dog of the week. I feel confident in him to get it done in the main event. And I have to let you guys know what's coming on the channel. We have the dog of the week, my favorite betting underdog on the entire card, Reinier de Ridder. Full highlight reel tape and full breakdown of why I like him in this matchup for the main event. We have the best bets here for UFC Abu Dhabi to put some money in your pockets, along with a full card breakdown that Carlos and I do every week, the more detailed breakdown. If you want to check that one out, if you want a little bit more detail, that one is for you. And as always, if you're enjoying the content, hit that like and subscribe button, and we'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.